Greetings and welcome back to Book of Shadows. In the last episode we started our adventure as Mayu, and now we've linked up with Yoshiki and we're gonna see what happened with Yoshiki and Ayumi before, since we changed our fate and now everything is going differently. So without further ado, let's get going. Shinuma sure was taking his sweet time. He went off to search the poolside area by himself, citing the heavy rain as an excuse for me to stay indoors while he gallantly got soaked in my place. I went along with it because I thought it seemed unusually chivalrous, coming from someone like him. But he's a rank amateur in matters of the spirit, so I was beginning to worry he'd gotten himself attacked or something. And that worry was just starting to turn to panic when Yoshiki comes back.
ダメだ。プールの水抜きはそこになんかあるかと思ったけど、肝心の水抜く手段がねえよ。
Yeah, since they aren't actually looking for the tongue, they have like no reason to go any further like this.
水圧調整室っつうのがあるから、あそこに入れりゃなんとかなるんだろうけどな。
そう。ここの空気は何か異様な感触だから。手がかりでもあるような気がしたんだけど。
Blood tribe. In that game there's a really weird vibe to the pool.
おいおい、まずは雨に凍える俺にお疲れ様の一言だろ。
Yoshiki, don't you remember you went out there by yourself saying like, oh, you stay here, so you can only blame yourself, man.
なんで？危ないから俺に任せろなんて言って自分で引き受けたんじゃない。
Exactly like Ayumi said, though I admit Ayumi could have said it a bit less rudely.
そうだけどよ。たくちった。
何？
別に。それよりどうすんだよ。
校舎に戻っても2階に行けないのよね。さっきまでは階段がある玄関側に行けたのに、いつの間にか廊下が分断されちゃってる。
Okay, so the second player is off limits for whatever reason. That's the entrance way to account the whole split in half. In the first game it did split in half, but that's actually pretty interesting. I'm not sure what version of the school this is.
さっき地震みてえな揺れがあったよな。
Oh, okay.
あれのせいか。
そうかも。あの地震は私たちがここへの入り口を開いた時に起こった。
In the first game we had to open a switch in order to find this place, but in this game this locker room is always here. Also in Blood Tribe.
私たちの行動がこの建物自体に何か影響を与えてるとしたら。
Most definitely.
なんか変なオカルトみてえな話だな。
嫌な言い方。そもそもオカルトというのはラテン語で隠されたものという意味で、日本語に訳すと
ああ、すまん、俺が悪かった。その話はまた今度聞かせてくれよ。
Yeah, we need to go going.
俺だって今起きてんのがまともなことじゃねえってことくらい理解してるさ。
There's still so many name tags to find and so many wrong-ends to experience.
この短い時間でどんだけ死体やら幽霊やら見たと思ってんだよ。嫌でも信じちまうよ、お前の言うこと。ま、お前以外の話だったらこうも素直に霊磁場だの異次元だの信じなかったろうけどな。
現実の力って偉大ね。いやおうなく人間に理解を強いてしまうんだから。
Indeed.
そいつが異常な現実だったとしてもな。
とにかく行ける範囲をもう一度調べてみましょう。
And now we are in the actual game. So, let's get cracking. cursor out of the way. Note, check the third from the right.
さっき俺が見た時と文章が違うぜ。
きっと何か意味があるのよ。
Must have some meaning. You don't say. What it means is that the third shower from the right has this thing. Upon twisting the handle, the thin shower head above spun slightly and a small bent piece of wire fell out from it on the ground.
念のために持っとくか。
Indeed. We have that. Is there anything here? No, nothing. But there are two name tags by the poolside, so we are going there now. One floating over here. There's a comparatively fresh corpse floating in the pool. It looks to be that of a female middle school student based on her uniform and relative size. The back of her head seems to have been bashed in, revealing white skull and pink brain tissue through the parts in her hair. She must have been struck pretty hard. Her student ID name tag is floating right next to her with big bold letters making it legible even from a distance. Takine Municipal Middle School, Chiaki Hiyama. And she was 13 years old and cause of death killed by a blow to head from blunt object, as we figured out already. Now there's another corpse here. There's a thoroughly decayed corpse lying here, practically melting away in the rain. Based on height and uniform, it seems to have once been a male senior high school student. There's a student ID name tag lying on the ground nearby. Matsukase Prefectural High School, Chuzonoki. Chuzonoki was 16 years old and cause of death followed in despair after accidentally causing death of a close friend. Well, that's depressing. No more name tags here. And as we heard, we cannot actually go to the first floor, nor can we go here. I'm just gonna go see what's at the exit. If there is even anything. Just walking through these halls, minding my own business. I don't think there's anything here. I can search the door though. The door is frozen in place as if it's just a decoration on the wall. It can't be opened. No notes. Oh. Here. And nothing else there. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the fourth one, north, there's a corpse lying here. It has another name tag. Right there. Hi, man. It's a decayed corpse. Based on outfit and height, it appears to be a junior high school girl. Okay, it's a gal. There's a student ID name tag lying on the ground nearby. Shobu University Middle School, Mamoru Tsukano. 13 years old, and cause of death, knocked unconscious from blow to the back of head, died several hours later. Which means she suffered pretty much. Building supervisor, or rather the custodian's closet is locked. Oh no. Yes, it is. The custodian's closet in frozen position is stuck here in the wall. It can't be opened. Yep. Not yet, anyway. Building supervisor. In 5A, there's another corpse. And it's actually the last one we get by playing with Yoshiki. But first, let's speak to the spirit. Of course, speaking about the ghosts. These are the fully fossilized remains of yet another student. This one seems particularly small. He was probably in 5th or 6th grade at most. There's a name tag attached to his clothing. Renaissance Elementary School, Takashi Hanada. Age 11 and cause of death collapsed while searching for friends. Friends starved to death. It's a nice accent I just got there for some reason. There's a red chalk drawing on the board that looks kind of like a tomato smashed against a wall. But it's not, probably. Based on the crudely colored shapes and uneven lines, it was likely drawn by an elementary school student. An arrow is pointing to a tomato with a big label written in sloppy letters. Girl Goat Splat. Okay. fun times all around. There's nothing else there, and we cannot go to the basement, so we try to go inside 4A. Which is locked also. The that's on 4A is locked. However, we have the wire, which means we can pick the lock.
あの針金使ってみるか。
That's right, of course.
よし、ここは一発鍵開けチャレンジと言ってみるか。
なんだか空き巣みたいね。
Just hold on a second, and I'll be right with you.
俺らの場合、逆になんとか外に出たいんだけどなっと。
Yep. Though the answer is probably not inside. The door seems to have been successfully unlocked. Surprise, surprise.
作りが単純な古い鍵で助かったぜ。
Indeed. Now, we can venture inside. And that music indicates that it's not a good place to be in.
なんだよここ。教室の形してねえぞ。
え？今なんて？
いや、だからこの部屋が変だって。
岸沼君、前も同じこと言わなかった？この部屋よ。ここ前も見たことある。私と。
Oh. There we go.
なんだあのガキ。いつの間に。ダメ！
あの子に近づいちゃう。テオ、この部屋良くない感じがする。
Yeah.
確かに妙な気がするけど、部屋の奥になんかあるんだよな。ちょっと調べてくるから、お前はここにいろよ。やばいと思ったら俺のことはいいから先に逃げろ。
また勝手に決めて。気をつけてよ。いい？あの子の目を絶対に見ないで。
ああ、分かったよ。Of course, we are gonna look at his eyes because we are stupid people like that. Oh. Hi, man. This time we are not, though, going to be buried alive as in the last game. His icy child-sized hands caught hold of my wrists and wouldn't let go. Try as I might, I couldn't shake him off. Shiba! And now we are in hell. When I came to, I found myself restrained. I couldn't move a muscle. I was lying face up on some kind of table with both my arms and both my legs firmly bound by rope, I guess. It was digging into my skin, whatever it was.
くそ！いつの間にか気絶でもしちまってたのか。
This is the dissection room in the basement. So, Yoshiki, you're fucked.
あんだけ篠崎に釘刺されたのに。
My head was the only part of my body that didn't have its movement prohibitively restricted, so I was able to look around the room to some extent. The walls and ceiling seemed to be made of dirt or mud. I didn't get the impression that I was in the school anymore. It looked and felt kind of like I was in some basement room, or more specifically a mine or a bomb shelter or something. Thick, globby bloodstains saturated every corner of the room, and the stench in the air was enough to send shiver down even the most hardened spine. It seemed fairly apparent that this room was useful. At least it was as apparent as it needed to be. But the scariest part was, I remembered this place. Or I had a nagging sense that I'd been here before, anyway. Much like Shinosaki had said about the weird classroom just moments before.
わけわかんねえ。何がどうなってんだよ。とにかく早く逃げねえと。
Actually, in the first game, Yoshiki and Ayumi never visited this room.
逃げる？できないって分かってるくせに。
And now we are literally screwed because Sachiko's here. Hi. Oh, the whole gang is here. Let the corpse party commence. The boys belonged to a little girl who looked like she was right around 10 years old at most. She was wearing a red dress and staring at me through a mop of messy black hair with a smirk on her face and condescending glint in her eyes.
Sachiko. Sachiko?
For some reason, Yoshiki actually remembers her name. I muttered a name without thinking, surprising myself. How did I know that who this was? Or more to the point, who was Sachiko?
覚えててくれたんだ。前は殺してあげられなかったけど、今度はしっかり最後まで面倒を見てあげる。こっち側の筋書きが固定されるように念入りにね。出しなよ、切れ端。
ざけんな！てめえみたいなガキ！
Ouch. In the very next movement, everything around me seemed to go white.
ガキが何？
Sachiko was now staring at me with a cold, unmoved and unwavering expression. I was in more pain than I'd ever felt in my entire life. I focused my gaze on the filthy giant at her side, who seemed to be doing her bidding. His enormous hammer was still resting on the mess that was previously my right ankle up until about a few seconds ago. I was all too aware that the extreme impact had pierced my flesh, shattered my bones and even sprayed the room with shards of marrow. This was beyond pain. Every last nerve ending in my body was on alert. I could feel the underside of my skin. I wanted to puke but knew it would do no good.
足の先から順番にゆっくり潰していってあげる。ほら続けろ。
And here we go. It's gonna be a long time before this is over.
顔は最後ね。お兄ちゃんちょっとかっこいいから残念だけど、潰れて目玉が飛び出した面白い顔も見てみたい。
Even Sachiko thinks that Yoshiki's a cool guy.
やめろ！この！
反抗的な目ね。次はどこを潰してあげようかしら。
叫んだよ。てめえなんかにビビるかよ！
Yoshiki's not giving up though so easily. I tried my best to stay strong and not give her the satisfaction of seeing me in pain or afraid. But in truth, I was scared out of my mind. All I wanted to do was shrink back in fear and agony. It took every fiber of my being to resist.
あ、そう。じゃあ、これはどうかな？おい、デクノボ！こいつにさっきのを見せてやりな。
The red-eyed giant laid down his hammer, but rather than feeling relief, I was instead even more worried by Sachiko's sadistically overjoyed expression. This is going rather badly, and it will continue to do so.
これ、なんだ？
I was flabbergasted. I couldn't even speak.
篠崎。
It's never actually told or shown what happened to Ayumi, so you can only guess what's going on.
いいよお兄ちゃん。悔しいね。憎いね。幸子たちを殺したいでしょう。幸子は優しいからお兄ちゃんはまだ殺さないであげる。でももし殺してやるが殺してくれになったらその時は優しく殺してあげる。
As she said this, she drew her face in close and I could feel her tiny cold lips sucking the tears from my cheek. Literally, she's feasting on her tears.
その憎悪が死んでからも変わらなければ。
Well, that was a rather nice wrong end, don't you think? But in any case, we can continue on from here. Wrong end number 2. Saved system data. Nope. Yes. System data saved. Yeah. Now we can continue with the actual story. Instead of getting ourselves killed again. Okay. Let's go. This time let's not look at Ryu's face. Ryu. It's Ryu, not Ryu. Can't do that, but there's the lever mechanism system thingamajiggies that we need to pull. It's some sort of pulley mechanism. Its exact purpose is unknown, but there's a large conspicuous lever attached to it. Yep. Pull the lever. The lever slides down easily. And it opens a secret passage into the custodian's closet. Because that's the red door.
なんか起きたか？
わからないけど、いいから早く戻ってきて。
ああ、すぐ戻る。
Yeah, let's get out of here. And back in front of building supervisor, Bulldog Super. Now we can get inside. Using this. The lever appears to have opened a trapdoor on the wall, just wide enough for a person to fit through.
こっから入れそうだぜ。
なんだか気が進まないわね。ここはプールやさっきの教室よりもまがまがしい気配がある。
だけどもしかしたら外に出られるかもしれないし。
Go in, keep out. We of course go in.
よし。とりあえず一回俺が入って安全かどうかを確認してくるから、篠崎はちょっと待ってろよ。
待って、岸沼くんだけじゃ心配よ。霊感ゼロの素人なんだから。
But we're of course okay, since Ayumi's the one who loses her head every time something bad happens. We are inside the custodian's closet now. It's an old space heater. Unfortunately, without fuel, there's no way to light it. Yep. Turning the dials accomplishes nothing. Without electricity, it's just a box. But wasn't the sound of TV static audible from the hall only a few moments ago? It indeed was, but now It's just a box. And speaking of boxes, there's one here. It's a small chest of some sort.
なんだろうな、これ。
Take the small chest. You need it. It's a small, finely detailed accessory case made from tortoise shell. Its design is long outdated, but the quality of its craftsmanship suggests it must have been very expensive back in its day. Slightly shaking, it produces a loud, distinct rattle.
中になんか入ってるみてえだ。音の感じからすると、箱の重さの割に入ってんのは小さいものらしいな。
Yup. Not sure if we'll need whatever it is, but we might as well take it with us just in case. Yeah. It's not like it takes too much room or anything. Actually, that's the case. And now, a noise from inside the closet. And we all know what's inside the closet. It takes you to the 3rd floor, but also there's 2 bodies there. Oh, hi. Back in Looney Town, I see. I quickly turned around to find Shinosaki excitedly mumbling something to herself in a low tone. And with that expression... Nice. Her whole body was slanted with her head leaning against the wall, and she was completely focused on one specific section of empty floor.
Shinosaki?
だから余計なことだって。
Okay.
どうしたんだよ。余計なことってこの箱のことか。
Shinosaki then began repeatedly banging her head against the wall. The motion was almost rhythmic, as if in time with the ticks of a clock or a metronome.
おいよせ、ふざけてんなら怒るぜ。
That was just a bitch slap across the face.
いつもあんたは言ったよね。友達だからってね。自分の身は自分で。何よその目を。待ちなさいよ。喉が焼けるみたいだ。
Mm-hmm.
臭いんだよ。そうだ、走らなきゃ。姉様どうして。
That's very good job from the voice actor, actually. And Yoshike's like, what? And off she goes. After stumbling around almost drunkenly for a few moments, Shinosaki suddenly took off running. She leaped through the trapdoor and out into the hall.
なんだってんだよ、あいつ。って見送ってる場合じゃねえ。連れ戻さねえと。
Indeed.
なかなか興味深いですね、彼女。
誰だ。
It's Naho. I'm not certain where she came from, nor even when or how she got there. She seemed to be about the same age as me. She looked mostly normal, but her eyes were much less vibrant than they should have been, appearing flat and lifeless like those of a dead fish. Yeah, 'cause she's dead, man. Her name was Naho Sainoki. I just happened to know this for no apparent reason.
霊能者兼物書き兼高校生といったところでしょうか。生前はという注釈付きですけど。
生前ってことはまさか幽霊
Exactly.
なのか。
遺憾ながらそういうことになりますね。
Regrettably. Meh.
てめえもあのガキの仲間ってわけかよ。篠崎に何しやがった。俺たちをこんなとこに閉じ込めてどうしようってんだ。
あら、それは誤解です。
Yeah, she's not the friends of those guys, but nonetheless, Naho, you're a bitch. And this game, or rather specifically, Chapter 4 is gonna tell how much of a bitch you actually are.
どちらかといえば私も被害者。まあそれだけではないですけれど。
そっか。
そっか。
あんたもここに閉じ込められて、それで。
それより今の彼女、大した才能をお持ちのようで。
そうだ、篠崎。
待ちなさい。あなたが彼女と長く付き合うつもりなら、私の話を聞いておくのは損にならないと思いますよ。
Well, listening to Naho is kind of a double-edged blade, because yeah, she knows these things, she knows what to do, but at the same time she's the one that caused all of this.
付き合うだと。手短に頼むぜ。
What is with that expression?
その冷静な判断、好感が持てます。
で、篠崎の才能って？
霊媒や巫女、シャーマンといえば分かりやすいでしょうか。自然科学では定義しづらいおぼろな存在。要するに霊や神といったものに自分の体を貸して権限させる。口寄せとか神下ろしとか悪魔つきとか言われる行いをするものです。
イタコンみたいなもんか。
ええ、あなたも見たように彼女はこの場に吹き溜まっていた死者たちの思念を取り込んでアウトプットしていました。いくらこの天神小学校が特別な状態にあるとはいえ、霊そのものではなく、こんな残りかすのような思念を。
Yeah, there's no place like Heavenly Host, which is a good thing.
私が見てきた中では、かなりの才能と言って差し支えないと思います。
そんなもんが才能だって？あいつはあんたとは違うんだぜ。
ここを抜け出すつもりなら、ただの無知、無力な人間よりも有利だと思いますけれどね。ただし、制御できればの話ですが。
Indeed. Right, of course she can learn to control them. If not, well, she kills Naomi, pretty much. So Yoshiki is very essential to Ayumi's well-being.
制御？
あれが自分をコントロールしている状態だとでも？彼女は抜群に感度が高いアンテナを頭に24時間くっつけているようなもの。
Again with the expression.
でも周波数を選ぶどころか、スイッチのオンオフの仕方さえまだ身につけていない。あのままではいずれ回線がショートして壊れてしまうか、受信した電波を垂れ流すだけのガラクタになってしまうか。
Yeah, that would bode very badly for us.
篠崎が元に戻らねえってのかよ。
さあどうでしょう。それは彼女とあなた次第。
頼む、一緒に来て篠崎を助けてやってくれ。
ごめんなさい、それはできません。私も私の大切な人を探していますから。
You found her before you died. Of course you don't remember it. And off she goes.
私がしてあげられるのはこれくらいです。もっともこれがいい方へ転がるかその逆か、それもまたあなた方次第。幸運を。
I wonder if you actually do wish us the best of luck, or if you are just amused at our efforts of trying to get out of here.
また地震か。
This was the big one. I literally couldn't stand up. I fell to my knees. And we come. I couldn't even tell you how long it lasted. It felt like it would never end. But eventually, little by little, it did subside. And off it goes. I stood back up and surveyed my surroundings, but as expected, the ghost of the girl was nowhere to be seen anymore. And this particular quake felt like it shook the very foundation of the entire building. Shinosaki was all I had on my mind. She was in serious danger. And so we must go now off and get her.
わかんねえけどよ。だけど、あいつだけは守んなきゃなんねんだ。何があってもよ。Shinosaki!
And that's how he found Mayu. As we can see, we are back there where Mayu left off.
とく、あいつ、俺のこと心霊現象素人みてえに嫌がったくせに。
If Yoshiki was like thinking about what happened a few moments ago, then that wrong end is kind of strange. Which means he also thought like, what if I would stare at him, at the ghost in the face? I would have been transported down there and my legs would have been crushed and Ayumi would have died and I would wish that I am dead. Of course that didn't happen, so let's do this.
自分があんなざまになっちまっちゃ。世話ねえぜ。
そうだったんだ。岸沼君と篠崎さんも大変だったんだね。
鈴本も一人でよく頑張ったな。森重は一緒じゃねえのか？
Shouldn't. Are you forgetting that this place doesn't actually listen to your advices when you tell it how you want to be in here?
探してるんだけどね。
まあ、あいつのことだからどうせ無事だろう。
Yeah, he's fine, but at the same time he's not. What I mean is that he is pretty content with the situation he has found himself in, but it has left him a little bit loony, if you catch my meaning.
幽霊見てさ、シェイクスピアの歌劇を彷彿とさせるなとか言って眉間にシワ寄せてんじゃねえの？
Okay.
俺と鈴本がこうして会えたんだ。あいつともすぐに会えるって。
Yeah, that's actually a pretty lucky thing to happen that you run into each other.
そうだよね。きっと会えるよね。
ま、廊下がつながったおかげで探す場所が増えちまったけどな。
でも一人で探すより二人で探す方が絶対にいいよ。
And of course you have me who is controlling you all and I know exactly where to go.
だな。
Even though that gets you killed.
いつもの鈴本らしくなってきたじゃねえの。じゃあ気合い入れてみんなを探しに行くか。
Find our friends. Yeah, let's do this.
しげに近くにいることは分かったんだから。私と、その前におトイレ。
Okay.
お前な。
Seriously.
ごめん。ずっと怖くて緊張してたからかな。急にお腹が。舞台の前にもたまにあるんだけど。
そんじゃそれもついでに探すか。
And off we go. Where are we? There's a gap in the floor here. A board has been laid across it as a makeshift bridge, but it's a bit unstable after the quake. Just cross with care. Yeah, let's go. So we don't have to go around on the first floor. The stairwell is completely packed with desks, making it virtually impassable. Fortunately, that last earthquake seems to have knocked many of them loose. With two people working in tandem, it shouldn't take very long to clear a path.
この机どうしようか、岸沼くん。
無理すりゃこのままでも通れるかもしれねえけど、崩れると危ねえからな。
Yeah, best move them out of the way.
片付けちゃおう。
And now, Third floor, east side is accessible. I like this music.
よかった。トイレだ。ごめん、私ちょっと行ってくるね。
うん、近くにいるから何かあったらすぐ呼べよ。
ちょっと離れててよ。聞こえちゃったら嫌だし。
Yeah, Yoshiki is not into that kind of thing. I know because I've played at him. I heard that.
お腹壊しちゃったかな。
Like in the first game, actually, she gets... What was that? I don't know. Reflux. Or something.
もうやだ。
Sometimes I ask myself, why am I playing these games? Taking girls to pee.
使えるトイレがあってよかった。よいしょっと。あれ？
And of course there has to be one shocking thing. Ta-da.
どっかにお腹ぶつけたのかな。あざになってる。
When did this happen and how? Even if I had hit my stomach on something, whoever heard of someone's belly getting bruised? I took a closer look and found myself momentarily breathless. Yeah, that looks pretty bad.
なんなのこれ。
The reddish purple bruise was like a fault lines emanating out in 4 directions, with my belly button serving as the epicenter. It almost looked like a weirdly colored spider web attached to my skin.
どうした？
なんでもない。すぐ行くから。
Yeah, best to keep moving.
お待たせ。超すっきり。
おう。
それより岸沼くん、離れててって言ったのに。
いや、鈴本がでけえ声出したから来たんだよ。大丈夫だったのか？
ごめん。岸沼くんはいいの？トイレ。
ああ、いや男子便所に入るとよ、なんかいるんだよ男の霊が。開けるなーとか言うの。
That guy is still there.
落ち着けないね。じゃあ気を取り直して篠崎さん探しましょう。
ああ。
Yep, off we go.
なんで私あのあざのこと黙ってるんだろう。男の子に見せるのが恥ずかしいから？そうじゃない。
Yeah, this is one thing that I don't understand. Why is Mayu keeping quiet about this? My mind was racing, with worst-case scenarios popping into my head one after another. I kept hoping this was all in my imagination, all nothing but a nightmare. But it sure felt real, and that was the scariest thing of all. Maybe I was sick, maybe I needed to go to the hospital. I couldn't stand all this uncertainty. So off we go. But I didn't say anything about it. I just walked with Kishinuma all throughout the school building in search of Shinosaki. I thought maybe if I went with him, I might run into Shik along the way, or at least find some clue as to his whereabouts. But no such luck. Eventually we found ourselves in front of the... Our search eventually led us back down to first floor. Having covered all our other bases, we set our sights on the pool. But just as we approached the locker room... Yep. Some scene is awaiting us. And I'm sure that no one is going to see this coming.
今の音聞こえた？
Because we are going to find one person that we already know from the first game in a rather precarious situation.
この中みてえだな。
So, here we go. A girl who looked to be around middle school age had been laid flat on the floor. Both her arms were bound and her eyes and mouth were covered with chest like strips of cloth. It was obviously being held against her will. Oh no, someone's just having a weird fantasy session over here. That's Nana, by the way. She was kicking both her legs and writhing all around, frantically trying to break loose from her bitings, but it didn't seem likely that she would succeed. Yeah, let's do something. It was only after saying this that I noticed the bruises on her legs. Actually, those marks look even worse. Regardless of what caused them or how they might relate to my own injuries, this girl had markings like rope burns clearly visible on her slender eyes. They were peculiar bruises that looked almost like letters, as if they signified something that was just beyond our ability to decipher.
おい鈴本、何ぼーっとしてんだよ。
ごめん。
Yeah, we must help her.
頑張って。今すぐほどいてあげるからね。
待て。よく見てみろよ、鈴本。
Kishinuma grabbed my arm to hold me back. I was a bit confused, but did as he suggested, and it didn't take me long to see the problem. The strips of cloth holding this girl to the floor actually seemed to be rolls of gauze. And whoever bound her like this really did a number. The gauze was stretched haphazardly all across the room's furnishings. Several strands of it were then projected upward to the top of the nearest copy shelf, where they were wrapped around the neck of a plaster bust. And from there they extended up the ceiling, where they were wrapped tightly around the handle of a bucket, suspended in the air. Suspended right above the girl. This is a little jigsaw trap right here. In other words, if we pulled on any bandages the wrong way or moved any desks, the plaster bust might fall, and if that happened... Yeah, and we all know that there's something really horrible in the bucket.
何が入ってんだあれ。動かして大丈夫なのか。
だけどのんびりしてたら。
The girl was thrashing wildly, unable to move or see, and too scared to call out. Sadly, this wasn't helping at all. It only served to pull the plaster bust closer and closer to the edge of the shelf. It was impossible to say whether or not she had any inkling of the threat that loomed literally right above her head. It seemed increasingly likely that this was the intent behind the trap. If the victim attempted to escape, she would only wind up killing herself.
落ち着け。要は天井のバケツさえ取り外しちまえば。
でも岸沼君、手が届く？まず顔の包帯をほどいて安心させてあげた方が。早く決めないと。
Indeed. Now allow me to save before we make any decisions that we will come to regret. And now we make the decisions that we come to regret. Try to reach to the bucket.
包帯なんて後でいいだろう。それよりもたもたしてたらバケツが。
そうだね。私棚の上の石膏像を押さえてるから。
よし、俺がバケツ外すからそっちは頼む。
気をつけてね。
This isn't going to end well, as you all know.
くそ、そこには手届くんだが取っ手に触れねえ。
無理に取ろうとしちゃダメだよ。
分かってる。考えたくねえけど、もし中身が硫酸とかだったら こぼしただけでアウトだからな。
机か椅子を動かして重ねたら。
But as we know, it's not going to work that easy.
そうだな。それしかねえか。
And here we go.
どうなってんだ。どれもこれも床に張り付いちまったみたいに動かねえ。
This brought to mind all the doors and windows that were so firmly frozen in place they might as well have been cement walls. I didn't need convincing, I knew what Kishinuma said was true. Those desks and chairs weren't going anywhere. I had no other choice but to step in.
岸沼君、机の上で私を肩車して。
けどよ、お前スカートで。
Come on, this is not the time to think about that.
そんなこと言ってる場合じゃないでしょ。石膏像が落ちる前に早く。
おう。おっと、なんだよこの机は。あ、いや、床が傷んでんのか。とにかく慎重にな、鈴本。
Let's do this. I swallowed nervously, then reached my hands over my head, careful not to make any sudden movements. I could reach the bucket's handle just fine, fortunately. Now all that remained was untying it and getting it down without spilling whatever happened to the fly within. Whatever it was, it definitely wasn't liquid. This was a solid, tangible weight. It felt almost as if the whole thing was built to bring with lead. I tried my hardest to maintain balance while adjusting to this unexpected new mass in my hands, but... It was no use. The bucket was slipping loose from my grip and there was nothing I could do to stop it. Inevitably, my hands gave out and the bucket was airborne. Someone had coated it in soapy water or oil, making it virtually impossible to hold on to. Whoever set this trap had apparently anticipated this very scenario and planned for it accordingly. We were meant to find this girl, we were meant to try rescuing her, and we were meant to fail miserably. This was all one big joke to someone. The bucket flipped over in midair, raining its contents down on the unknowing, unsuspecting victim below. Directly onto her face. And that did not sound good at all. Her cries only lasted for 1 or 2 seconds. They were followed by a few convulsions in her legs, and then stillness. Thousands of assorted nails, razors, scissors, and tacks all struck the poor girl's face, piercing her soft cheeks and eyes and filling her mouth. It took almost no time at all for what was left of her pale, perfect skin to be dyed crimson.
そんな。なんでだよ。私のせいで。バカ野郎！お前の俺たちのせいじゃ。
やだ。こんなつもりじゃ。ごめんね。許して。
Well, we just killed Nana. Now, let's do that again and this time save her. Because that was a pretty poor way to go, but at least it was fast. Though, to be honest, if you're going to feel pain for the rest of your existence as a ghost, that might not be actually that way good of a way to go. So now we're gonna save her. While we still have time. Remove the bandages, that's the correct choice.
そうだな。このまま暴れられたら助ける前に石膏像が落ちちまうかもしんねえし。よし、待ってろ。すぐ顔の包帯取ってやるから。
She should have heard every word Kisnuma was saying, but she didn't seem to be calming down in the slightest. With all the layers of bandages crisscrossed over her ears, maybe she couldn't understand us. Unable to see, unable to hear, and too frightened to scream. I think I'd scurry too if I were in her position.
くそ、念入りに巻きやがって。よっしゃ、ほどけたぜ。落ち着け。あんま暴れると。
怖い。やだよ。何ちゃん。ひかりちゃん。千早ちゃん。
Come on, you step in.
やべえ。
落ち着いて。私を見て。
There we go. Slap to the face and all is well.
慌てないで。冷静に。ゆっくり息をしてみて。そうだよ。大丈夫。平気だからね。
Oh, sorry. Gradually the girl began to calm down. I gently stroked her cheek where I just slapped it. Tears were welling in both our eyes. I closed mine and nodded my head.
いい子だね。もう少しだけ我慢できる？じっとしてれば何も怖くないからね。はい。もう平気です。
And imagine just Kishinuma standing there, exactly like that, like, what?
私ここにいるからね。もうちょっと頑張って。岸沼くん、棚の上の石膏像が落ちないようにしばらく押さえててくれる？
おう、わかった。
きつく結んである。でもよし、ほどけたよ。
And there we go. It's actually lighting up a bit, I think.
大丈夫？立てる？ダメみたいです。膝が震えて。じゃあしばらく座ってよっか。無理しなくていいよ。
I put my arms around her and only then did I realize what she meant. She was shaking from head to toe, more violent than I'd ever felt before. She must have been frightened out of her mind. 何？ありがとうございます。そうだよね。怖かったもんね。
こんな大人っぽい鈴本初めて見たかもしんねえ。なんつうか女ってすげえよな。
Girl power.
森重に頼りっぱなしのこいつもそのうちゆい先生みてえな人になんのかな。
Indeed. Mayu is really dependable. And there's Nona.
本当にありがとうございました。お二人は命の恩人です。無事でよかった。
まさかリアルで命の恩人なんて言われる日が来ようとはな。
Yeah, I don't think that's... Never mind, I don't know what I'm saying.
私は小笠原奈々って言います。武蔵川女子中学校の1年です。私は鈴本真由。
よろしくね。で、こっちの柄の悪いお兄さんは岸沼よしきくん。
柄の悪いは余計だ、鈴本。そういうとこは森重の影響か？1年ってことはサトシの妹より1個下か。タッパあるし、なんかしっかりしてんな。
At least their mood has been lifted.
やっぱ
And that's a good thing in a
りゆかちゃん
situation
も
like
この
this.
学校のどこかにいるのかな。持田くんとはぐれてなければいいんだけど。岸沼さんと鈴本さんも誰かを探しているんですか？うん、クラスの友達5人と副担任の先生と、それに友達の妹さん。
Yep, and you're searching for Narichihaya, Hikari, and then I think 2 more girls.
まだ私たちもどういう状況なのかはっきりわからないんだけど、きっとみんなもどこかで私たちを探してると思うの。そうなんですか。実は私も友達とはぐれてしまって、
I wonder
そ
who
れで
actually
みんなを探しているうちに。
did that to her.
どこの誰にあんなひでえ目に遭わされたんだ？
わからないです。ナリちゃんたちを探している途中でいきなり後ろから目隠しをされて。
Like, it wasn't Yoshikazu. He would have just killed him or her. So who the hell was it?
ものすごい力で縛り付けられて、多分だけど大きな男の人だと思います。
Though nothing else really makes any sense. Unless it was Kisami or something.
大きな男か。鈴本、心当たりあるか？
だって生きてる人に会ったこと自体岸沼くんとこの子だけだもん。
どうやら人玉や幽霊のガキ以外にもろくでもねえやつがうろついてるみてえだな。
Your face. Nana suddenly planted both arms firmly at her sides, shrunk into herself and began shaking again. She was probably thinking about what had happened to her. Oh god, don't tell me. I'm not gonna say it, but I guess you all know what just went through my mind.
その話はもういいでしょ、岸沼くん。
Especially when she has that expression.
あ、終わり。
私ちょっとこの子とプールの方行ってくるから、岸沼くんはここで待っててくれる？行こう。外は雨が降ってるからお水あるよね。はい。
おいおい、何言ってんだ。危ねえだろ。喉が渇いたんなら俺が雨水汲んできてやるよ。
It's not thirst that they're going out for, Yoshiki.
お、ね、か、い。ここで待ってて。何かあったらすぐに呼ぶからね。
うわ、分かったよ。気をつ。
Again, skip text because I am so impatient.
ごめんね、岸沼くんって鈍感だから。いえ、こちらこそすみません。しょうがないよ。あんな怖いことされたら私だって。
I'm thinking she peed herself.
ここなら他に人もいないから遠慮なく洗っちゃいなよ。なんだったら私あっち向いてよっか。はい、そうしてもらえると。分かった。
I walked over to the wall where the roof's overhang offered some protection from the rain and waited for Nana to finish up. Taking this time to look around, I noted that the whole building was surrounded by dense forest. Theoretically, we could climb the fence here and leave. But we'd just be trading a creepy dark school for a creepy dark woods. Could we survive out there? And would we actually be able to get home? Nope. I think the forest is even worse than the school. I just wanted to find Shig. He'd be able to look at this situation coolly and rationally without flipping out and getting all emotional like me. I just needed to find him. To see his face. Shig. I was starting to get teary-eyed again when I noticed Nana lazily running towards me. As she neared, she slowed to a walk.
体温ですぐに乾くよ。あとは香水でもかけておけば。
We were both completely soaked from head to toe, but I was confident we dried off quickly enough once we got back inside the school building. And since I happened to have some travel fragrance in my pouch, I took it out and spritzed a little on and around Nana's skirt.
この香り、ロルチェのサンライトイエロー。当たり。最近お気に入りのフレグランス。私も好きです。お小遣い少ないから今は安いの使ってるけど。じゃあここを脱出したらさ、私のを分けてあげる。本当ですか？私演劇部の公演の時絶対つけます。今度初舞台なんです。演劇部？
And we are now getting back to the...
私も高校の演劇部入ってるんだ。
No worries, chatting. We're all happy now. Which is a good thing.
そうなんですか？役者さんですよね。
I will bet that... Never mind.
役もやるけど、本書いたり、服作ったり、部員が多くないのもあるんだけど、演劇に関すること全部が楽しくって。すごい！何でもできちゃうんですね。ナナちゃん、ナナちゃんって呼んでいい？はい、もちろん。私のこともマユって呼んでね。ナナちゃんってスタイルいいから、もしよかったら今度服作らせてよ。
That is if you make it out of here alive, which you won't.
いいんですか？あ、でも私なんかよりもっとスタイルいい子がいるんです。ナリちゃんって言って私の幼なじみなんですけど、本当に宝塚みたいな。
I'm just gonna say that I like Nana more than Nari. Now don't take that creepily.
それから千早ちゃんっていう子はお姫様みたいに可愛くて。
But she's also a brat.
じゃあそのお友達も探して一緒に帰ろう。私と岸沼くんも協力するから、ナナちゃんも私の友達探すの手伝ってくれる？はい、まゆさん。風邪ひいちゃうからそろそろ中に戻ろっか。
Yep, back inside.
そういえばナナちゃん、その太もものとこのあざってどうして？あれ、気がつきませんでした。ひょっとしたら捕まった時についたのかも。怖くてあんまり覚えてないんですけど。そう、ごめん、変なこと聞いちゃったね。
Okay, back inside and meet up
お
with
待た
Yoshiki
せ
again.
ああ、遅かったから心配したぜ。
女の子の身だしなみは時間がかかるの。ねえ岸沼くん、しげ兄たちを探しながらナナちゃんのお友達も探してあげてもいい？
It's funny when she said a woman's beauty takes time to mold. I just imagined her saying that to Yoshiki, and they are both soaked wet and look actually pretty ridiculous.
当たり前だろ。さっさとみんなを探して帰ろうぜ。そんじゃ行くか。
And now we have our company of three. and we are ready to head out. But we are gonna do that in the next episode, since this episode has taken that much time now. But in any case, as always, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.